us. Welcome to the virtual student conference of the Global Scholars Achieving Career Success Program. My name is Olga Aksakalova. I'm overseeing the program from LaGuardia Community College. It is my huge pleasure today to welcome everyone, all the students, all the professors, all the leadership teams. Thank you so much for being with us. This semester, we had 27 virtual exchange projects between American students and students in Palestine, Jordan, Egypt, and Morocco. Students explored critical issues related to United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, number 6 and number 10. The topics were very wide-ranging, from gentrification to water waste treatment to mobility challenges and so forth. So we are really in for a big treat today. So please be with us, pay attention. I would like to thank our sponsor, the Stevens Initiative. So now we're going to hear from students in Professor Iris Mercado's course at Hostess Community College and Professor Mohammed Salama's course from the American University in Cairo. It's a very interesting topic that's going to take us to brain health and dementia risk factors. So the floor is all yours.
Hello, everyone. Should I share my screen or you'll be sharing the presentation?
Please share your screen, please.
Okay, give me 1 second. Here we are. Okay, is my group member Marlo here?
Yes. Okay, should I start?
Yes, you could whenever you're ready.
Hello. In today's conference, Casey and I will be presenting to you the work of our collaboration throughout this semester regarding brain health, specifically tackling dementia risk factors.
Okay, so this GSACS virtual exchange was a collaboration between the Cairo American University with Professor Mohammed Salama and CUNY Hostess Community College with Professor Iris Mercado.
Our focus, just like the rest of the groups, is the UN SDG number 10, which aims to reduce inequality within and among countries.
And here we just have a map just showing like where, like Cairo and the US is located.
This is just a screenshot taken at our previous meeting, and we can see here the different students from both backgrounds.
And here we have a slide just depicting 12 dementia risk factors, and I'll just list 3 for brevity. So the first one is physical inactivity, the second one is smoking, and the third one is excessive alcohol consumption.
So dementia presents as a series of symptoms that interfere with our daily life, symptoms ranging from hindrance of memory, thinking, and social abilities. Now, currently, the global population is an aging one, which is leading to an increase in the prevalence of dementia, which makes it much more vital to raise awareness about the dementia risk factors that can be modified to help equip society with the tools needed to protect against dementia. And this has become an urgent public health issue, and it is crucial to develop effective interventions to support anyone suffering from dementia.
Okay, so as it relates to shared inquiry question, the major question that we had was, do we have a difference regarding knowledge and attitude toward modifying lifestyle to control risk factors for dementia?
Both groups of students were split into 6 mini groups to facilitate working together. And here are our findings.
So our first group, group 1, which was a joint collaboration between students from Cairo and students from New York. And these were the 2 questions that they had. Question 1 being that what changes in your household can be made to address the regular access to healthy foods that can impact one's learning and decision-making later in life. And the second question is, how do you motivate yourself to make healthy eating choices and maintain an active physical life to improve your cognitive skills?
So the conclusion the group found is that controlling one's weight can lead to different types of improvement in one's well-being, like an improvement in their memory, attention, and managing their thoughts, and even their feelings and behaviors. Opting to consume nutritious foods can also have a positive effect on an individual's decision-making skill and their judgment. continuously consuming healthy food can actually improve cognitive skills on the long run.
So as it relates to group two, these were their two questions. Question one being that how can you improve your daily routine after knowing that smoking and having unhealthy eating habits leads to obesity will negatively impact your brain health? And question two, why do you think the percentage of unhealthy eating habits is usually higher in impoverished communities?
So both regions found that reducing smoking should take the forefront and be prioritized. Egyptians selecting it more often though, and their approaches differed slightly, with the Egyptians opting to work on quitting smoking by themselves, while in the US, they preferred implementing support groups to work on the matter, which highlights different cultural approaches to changing negative habits. And for the second question, Egyptians highlighted that the biggest issue when it comes to following a healthy diet in more impoverished countries would be how expensive the healthy choices are. Americans also agreed, but they also believe that besides the lack of money, it is also attributed to the lack of education, awareness, and availability of healthy foods.
So next up, we have group three, and these were the three questions that they posed to their volunteers. Question one, which of the following risk factors are you most willing to change about your lifestyle? Smoking, physical activity, or nutrition? For question two, they asked, if you are a smoker, what holds you back from trying to stop smoking? And for question three, can you give us examples of what motivates you to exercise?
So Egyptians were more willing to implement changes in their physical activity level, and Americans were more willing to reduce their smoking habits. Both regions concluded that the main reason why people tend to struggle to quit smoking is stress. And in terms of motivation to exercise and get in shape, Americans tend to be more motivated and care more about their physical activity.
So our other researchers from group four drafted these two questions, which they posed to their participants. Question number one being that, what is the first risk factor you would work on fixing in your area? And question two, are people aware of their risk factors and their effects on them?
So Egyptians believe that the biggest issue facing the country is air pollution, but smoking, lack of physical activity, and high rates of obesity are also quite big factors in the country. For the US, they found that the issue is mostly in lack of education and high smoking statistics.
Okay, and these are the results that we have from groups for second question. Are people aware enough of the risk factors and their effects on them? So for Egypt, we could find that there was a mix in answers. Some of the participants said unaware, aware, and some said it's a work in process. However, for the New York side, all participants said that they were unaware.
So group 5 posed 2 questions. The first one being if the participants have noticed any changes in memory or concentration correlating with stress. And the second one is, would you consider changing your lifestyle after learning about the major negative impact obesity and smoking has on your brain health?
So as it relates to group number 5 findings, we find that both countries experienced similar problems as it related to stress and unhealthy lifestyle. Both US and Cairo reported having symptoms related to mental health. And as it relates to the findings, it showed that regardless of culture, there was a shared universal factor which contribute to poor brain health. And finally, mental health awareness and education in both countries should be prioritized to improve well-being of those living in these communities. My apologies.
Our last group also came up with 2 questions. The first one being if you believe your brain gets enough exercise, and if not, how can we influence exercise on the brain? And the second one is, what habits do you practice that put your brain at risk?
Okay, so from group number 6 survey, we find that according to the responses, 1 out of 8 people are engaging in daily activities to exercise their brain, which is not a lot. And mathematically, this is 75% of respondents are not participating in any beneficial brain exercise.
We hope this presentation highlighted how big of a concept brain health is and how it isn't just merely about preventing diseases, and understanding the determinants of brain health is such a crucial step in the building of all our brain capital. And we found that differences definitely do exist between our 2 regions, but there are also much more commonalities than there are differences. Thank you.
We're going through this workshop today on, the specifics of what you might have done. Like for example, the person who mentioned in the chat that they feel like they've developed their leadership skills in or throughout their GSACS experience, to really try to get into that a little bit more. What does leadership mean in that particular instance, right? What kinds of activities were related to that? Did you take a role? Did you take initiative to do something, or did you reach out to people to kind of pull them into the project more? There's so many different ways that someone could be a leader. So how did you employ your leadership skills in this particular experience? Because once you identify the how, it might be easier to then to explain that to other people, right? Including on your resume, including on your cover letter and other documents that we're going to talk about today. What we also want to mention, and we could go to the next slide, is that NACE is a national organization for colleges and employers based here in the United States. But similar competencies are important to employers all over the world. So on this chart, what we have is like a summary of NACE competencies in the left table, and then you could see the career competencies that were shared with us from Morocco, and on the far right, competencies shared from Palestine. And if you take a look, right, there's a lot of connections and similarities between them. So for example, technology competency is present on all three, right? Makes total sense. In Morocco, it might be called slightly different, like computer and IT skills, right? And we see the computer and IT skills once again in Palestine. So the core competencies are very much transferable right across the globe. So whether you're planning to work within your own country, or if you plan to travel the world and apply your skills working for international companies, these are going to be very important for your career development. And again, identifying them, being able to talk about them, continuing to develop them is going to be extremely important. So on the next slide, we have just a couple of examples, again, of how a GSACS program feature connects to various competencies. So for example, if you had to engage in experiential project-based learning to examine UN CDG theme, which every single class had to do, right? And how that theme applies in your local and international communities. Through those projects, right? So involvement in those projects, you most likely had to develop and employ your communication skills and professionalism, critical thinking, equity and inclusion, leadership, teamwork, and technology. So pretty much all of the critical, right, the core competencies were kind of embedded and involved. So now the goal is to identify how, right, and think about concrete examples that you could talk about. All right. We have some more examples here. And again, you could use these slides as a way to reflect, right, after this session, to make it into more of a individual reflection session, to think about what were the program features that you saw in your project and how they relate to the competencies, how they relate to the specific things that you've done in your project.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Net Rosario from Ostos Community College. Happy to be here with each of you. And for my section, we'll be talking about what's most relevant. So you're learning about the competencies and how this relates to your experience. Now we want you to showcase that as you're working on updating your resume. And what you can include on your resume is this whole experience, the entire experience of what you participated in. So the International Virtual Exchange Project. And this can be titled in your resume under the Global Scholars Achieving Career Success, and include your information and the country that you're representing. As well, you will include which goal you worked towards and you explored. So if you explored the UN Sustainable Development Goal, clean water and sanitation, number 6, Or number 10, reducing inequalities. This is something you want to make sure you highlight in your resume. In addition, examining the UN Sustainable Development Goal theme in the local and international communities. For those who were active and created and led a presentation, this is information as well that will go into your resume so that you led a virtual student-led presentation in the conference. In addition to the workshop, such as today that you are participating in. So you've gained some experience learning about making connections, connecting what you've learned, your career competencies, and your experience to your work that you're highlighting in your resume. So these are important points to take note of as you're preparing your resumes and working with your campuses and your colleges, career services. Make sure that you bring all this information to them. Thank you. Next slide. And this is the GSACS certificate that you will be receiving upon as you've accomplished this program. And this will also be included in your resume. The certificate of achievement states here, it recognizes your successful completion of the International Virtual Exchange Project that required students in the United States and Middle East and North Africa to explore collaboratively the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and develop career success competencies. So this highlights what you've accomplished, and you will include this on your resume as well as your LinkedIn profile and other profiles that you may be sharing with employers. Again, thank you, and I will pass it on to.
Welcome to today's session. I'm Afna Farium, GSACS assistant. This is its internship. You can mention it here, like intern. If it's volunteer, you can make a slash and then put volunteer. And here you can use the action verbs to explain the duties or the job description. What did you do in that job?